Good morning. Welcome to the Saturday edition of the NBA Betting Show. Showing the holiday spirit today is Mike Lockey. Showing no holiday spirit is Matt Meiselman. I am Mike G, and I drank all the holiday spirits last night. Let's jump today to look at a recap. There's no immediately actionable bets for this morning, so there may be some news coming in. We'll jump to something if there's immediately actionable. We're going to talk about a recap of a few interesting spots yesterday. Let's talk about that Sixers game first. We had value in the morning. We had some news that came in afterwards. What do you think was the right way to play that, and how did that turn out, Matt?
So we kind of crammed that in right at the end of the show yesterday, right? Because we weren't really showing much value. It was basically Sixers will be a bet only if Draymond Green is out.
Right.
And then we sort of handled it. I think what I said didn't really come to fruition, but it still got us in the right direction. So Klay Thompson got downgraded right before we went off air yesterday, and we were already showing the Sixers as slight value, like no matter what. Pretty good value if Draymond were out, and then even better value if Klay was out too. And my hunch when Klay got downgraded was just they're going to punt the game. Like Klay and Draymond will both sit. And then pretty soon after that, we got Draymond ruled out. So I was in for like over a unit already just from that. Because I thought Klay would just get downgraded later. And later on, we got Melton confirmed in, which was good. We got Tobias Harris downgraded. We got Klay Thompson upgraded. There were a lot of moving parts, but we cared mostly about Draymond Green. So Philly was a bet for anyone who just followed the Draymond update. We had it projected at a spread around like 12 or 13 on the sheet. And then, as you were telling me off air, Tobias getting downgraded actually proved to be a positive, not just because of Matisse Thybulle, because he was already getting moved into the rotation anyway. I think George Niang being out is, or maybe Niang and Korkmaz were both out yesterday, or one of those guys was out.
Niang played. Niang actually had the best. He had the best plus minus. Korkmaz
was the one who got downgraded. Okay, so we knew Korkmaz was going to be out, so Thybulle was going to be in the rotation at least, which is always good. But then Harris getting downgraded meant Thybulle was going to start, and it's only another 10 minutes or so for Thybulle to start versus just be off the bench. So we already the most benefit that we could get is just him playing versus not playing. But basically Harris getting downgraded also because Tobias Harris just isn't very good. It was like a neutral, but the market reacted to it.
Yeah, that's where we jumped in yesterday. Following the advice of the show, I was watching for the Draymond news. So I jumped in, got some when Draymond was ruled out. Then right before tip off, I just checked things again after we were chatting about the Thybulle and Tobias Harris trade in terms of starters. I went and looked, and I saw that the line had dropped to 8.5 again. So it went from 8.5 to like 10.5, and then went back to 8.5. So I jumped back in, and so our sheet had it at 12 or 13. The game ended at 12.
I want to say 12.2 was the projected line before Harris got downgraded, and I didn't actually update it because it was right before tip-off, but that wouldn't have changed really anything.
Right. So that one, hopefully, guys, even if you were just following for Draymond news, that was enough to get in. So hopefully you got some. The other thing that was interesting from that game that we had some off-air conversations. We've been playing around with our props model. We don't think it's yet predictive enough that we want to bring it onto the show, but there was a few things that popped out. One of them was the Kevon Looney rebounds that we looked at. And Matt, give us a recap of what your thoughts were, because we ended up jumping in a little bit on that. But what were you seeing as a possibility? We were talking about there's blowout risk, but if there's no blowout, he's really likely to smash. So tell me, what did you do on that one?
Okay, so I'm going to give the brief higher level thing with props in general, because we at some point I think we will cover props more extensively. We're still working out the kinks in the system, but there are all these projections around the industry that are getting better. I think they are progressively improving, and there are more of them, so being able to aggregate them is more of a useful tool. So higher level version of what we care about there is basically we're trying to figure out when to trust the projections that are coming out from around the industry and when not to. And when our conclusion basically to this point has been the more abnormal the team's rotation, or this is my conclusion, but it was sounding like you guys agreed with it to some extent at least. But basically, the more abnormal a team's rotation is, the more variance there is in the projections of the players on that team, because we don't know who's going to play what number of minutes. These DFS sites are kind of guessing. Like when Capella and John Collins are out, we really don't know how much AJ Griffin small forward minutes we're going to get versus power forward minutes. There's a lot of guesswork there. But then there were other reasons why projections could be off. And in Looney's case, it was really just the variance of a blowout. Because Looney was projected well for his over on rebounds. But the chance of a blowout for that game, by our model and also just by the market, we were on the fringes of blowout territory with the spread around 10. And then you have the other problem that Looney has to guard Joel Embiid, which means foul trouble is pretty likely. Yep. But on the flip side of that, Looney, his minutes are much more secure, generally speaking, when Draymond is not playing, because the Warriors do not have a lot of confidence in James Wiseman. Sometimes he's just with the G League, so they can't play him, but they don't have a lot of confidence in him, and they can't go small and play like Anthony Lamb at center. They have to play one of Draymond or Looney basically at all times. Their normal rotation essentially looks like that. So Looney has a higher floor for minutes and a higher ceiling for minutes when Draymond's out. That was somewhat accounted for, but because of the quirks of this matchup with Embiid and possible blowout, we thought there was a lot more variance for Kevon Looney than normal. So unfortunately, the bet that I made for this game was Looney over 11.5 rebounds at plus 370 or something, and he got 11. Like, that was my main bet for Looney. I looked for, like, rebounds plus assists. This was a thing that actually worked well last year when Draymond didn't play, but the blowout had me concerned, so I went for more of a higher variance bet. But most Looney stuff did well. We didn't talk about it on the show. We didn't really have we didn't have this during the show yesterday. But it's more of just like a conceptual thing to illustrate of, like, in the future and probably the not too distant future, we are going to get into this kind of thing to some extent.
Yeah, we'll definitely be talking about props. There wasn't, and Matt and I were looking at this in the 6 o'clock range, just chatting. Always interesting to see just how different the odds are site to site. So yeah, sure. the main line at most of the sites was an over under of, it was either 8.5 or 9.5. 9.5.
I think it was 8.5 at like minus 105.
Right, sorry. Yep. And then, but for the at least 11, so the over 10.5, Bovada and Bet Online and some of the offshore sites. The line was like, it wasn't that great. It was like just barely above even money, but FanDuel had a plus 140.
That was for 10 plus, I'm pretty sure, right? Over 9.5.
Was it over 9.5?
Yeah. Actually,
you're right. It was over 8 for only one above, right? Because the regular line was 8.5, and this was over 9.5. But you get plus 140. So that was
the range of odds for just over 9.5. Depending on the site you were looking at, was anywhere from like plus 105 to plus 150.
Right. So that's where line shopping can really get you some. Yeah. So we had a bet at that plus 140 over 9.5. So that one came through. Then we had some a small little nibble at plus over 13 and over 14 that didn't come through at plus 810 and plus something crazy. But yeah, we'll talk some more about props as the season goes on, as our model gets a little more refined. I think that's probably it for the Sixers game. So hopefully, guys, you got at least a half unit, possibly a full unit or more on the Sixers spread yesterday. That one came through as predicted and recommended. Anything else key from yesterday? I know
there's a couple on screen here that one good, one bad.
Okay.
Which one do you want to do first?
Let's talk about the Celtics first and get that out of our system, since the Magic apparently are now the best team in the East and blah blah blah. But let's talk about that surprise finish for the not even surprise finish, the whole game. But
yeah,
any takeaways from that? Anything that makes you concerned about your life savings on the Celtics? Or
no.
Okay.
I mean, the line was 12.5 when we got all the Celtics questionable guys confirmed in. It went to like 13. Maybe there were some 13.5s. It bumped up to. We had it as a 1 unit bet at minus 12.5. I don't know. Like, I don't know what to do with this game. Variance is crazy. I mean, the Spurs went into Miami and won a game outright a couple of days ago. This stuff is just, sometimes a team just takes the other team for granted. Sometimes young players who are generally not very good but have a lot of talent just all, get it together in one night.
Yep.
And the Magic could be a higher variance team because of that. Maybe that's something to point out, but I don't want to read too much into this. Like, it's a one-game sample.
Agreed. Good that we at least cover it. We don't just talk about our wins. That one was a loss. I've been on the Celtics bandwagon for quite a bit on this show for the last couple weeks.
It does feel like every bad team is like has a really oddly impressive resume so far, and like
except for the Hornets, they're the only one.
What did you say,
Charlotte's the only one that hasn't done it yet.
Yeah, I think you're right about that.
They're the only really bad team without a winning streak. But to your point, like all of the other ones have done that somewhere or another.
Like Rockets beat Milwaukee at full strength.
Yeah, they won a game in Phoenix
really
a little bit
recently.
before that too. The Rockets beat Phoenix and Milwaukee in a span of a week. They beat Phoenix twice and Milwaukee in the span of a week. They had 3 wins against those two teams.
The
Spurs, the Thunder before had their winning streak. Yeah, it's just I don't know.
The league is deep. There's a lot of talent, and it used to be. It's not just these teams are winning games. Some of these teams are fun to watch. Like Houston's a bad team from you look at their record.
Yeah.
But they got some fun players to watch on that team.
So like part of
Yeah.
the evolution of the 3-pointer is that it makes the underdog more live at all times, right? So like
Sure.
you can just shoot your way into a victory at any point, which is like kind of what makes the league fun because there's a little more parity. But like I feel like the amount of parity in this season compared to any season I can remember is quite high. I mean, and then as I say that, the Celtics might be like an all-time great team sitting on top of this, but like it feels so strange how tightly packed everyone else is below that.
I think it is true, but I don't think there's anything we want to do with that because I think the market knows that too. Like there were when I first started betting,
making an observation, nothing actionable.
It's definitely fair, but like I remember when I first started betting on the NBA like 10 years ago, the team that I was betting on a lot as massive underdogs was, the worst version of the 76ers that have ever existed. And they were like 20-point underdogs all the time. We don't see that anymore.
Right.
And maybe they were just worse than any of these teams, but also the variance is higher, and I think that's priced in.
Are you talking about like in the tanking years?
I'm talking about like starting point guard Tony Roten and Nerlens Noel at center. Yeah.
Yeah. That wasn't an NBA team by design.
Sure.
They were fielding. I mean, the guys. Well, Roten was terrible. Nerlens Noel is at least an NBA player. Anyway,
I thought Nerlens Noel was going to be a star. Actually, I was really wrong about that.
He's behind Isaiah Stewart on the Pistons depth chart now. He's had a good career.
Isaiah Stewart had 3 threes last night, by the way, guys. But anyway,
shout out.
There he is.
There goes all our value.
The only thing I would say for what would we do with this, and I'm not recommending this now. I'm just putting it as a let's have a footnote, something to think about. Is there? Yeah, that's a better word for it. Is there anything, Matt, to? Because I bet Celtics last night, but I was a little hesitant just with that's a big line. When you're betting on them at minus 12.5, and we know, we believe the model. We have our feelings on the Celtics. Is that just too much to lay? Go ahead,
no.
Mike. Santa has a
okay.
The reason why it's not is because the Celtics backups are fucking incredible. So like the team goes from being great to being great in garbage time, and like they just slaughter them. And like there's like this team is super unique in my opinion, in that like you're gonna bring Peyton Pritchard in as the like 10th guy, and he's like a neutral player, or like a small positive or something
Pritchard,
like that. Like,
Hauser, Derek White plays some garbage time. Like they've got really good garbage time players.
Yeah, and actually like their rating ends up being like really good against the other team's garbage time team. So like
Sam Hauser had the best plus minus in the NBA for the first like 2 months of the season, and that's partly why it was either him or Cornette, one of those two.
Yeah, and they're on the same team, right? Cornette's a Celtic now.
They're both they're both part of the Celtics garbage time unit. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's fascinating to me, and I think that's why I feel like I detected kind of early like these blowouts were like really impressive just because this team is just built different.
Fair enough. All right.
And for Mike G, like you were saying the opposite when remember the Celtics Hornets game when we were like we should have been betting more at minus 11, like this was the lock. I know the Magic are worse than that Hornets team was that night because they didn't have LaMelo or Rozier or Hayward, but like it can be good value to lay the points. I don't know what like the market inefficiency was there, other than some Celtics guys were questionable and then got upgraded.
Mhm.
But I had a -3 manual adjustment on Boston for like late game scenarios, but they got blown out. Like none of that was even relevant. So who knows?
Understood.
Yeah.
All right, so we are going to move on. I think we've done enough talking of the bad result for us, but
Yes.
we're still high on the model. We're still high on the Celtics. Let's talk about the Knicks.
I can't wait to get an Emmanuel Quickly jersey in
I-
Matt's background.
I haven't had a Knicks jersey since Latrell Sprewell. That's how long it's been. And
How did you ever wear that after the incident? I feel like I wouldn't
I
want to
don't
wear
remember.
that.
I don't even know. Maybe I had an Allen Houston jersey when I was like 11.
Ooh, that's a pretty good one.
I think that one.
quick-
That one I wore.
I would want a
Quick-
Larry Johnson. I think.
Quick Knicks trivia. Tell me which college both those guys went to. Sprewell first, then Houston.
Don't know.
Anybody? They're both football schools.
Did Houston go to Miami?
No, Houston went
Okay.
to Tennessee, and
Okay.
Sprewell went to Alabama. But we
I almost said Alabama when you said football school, just because that's the only thing that I
I
would.
thought I was throwing a softball. over.
Yeah.
Let's
But I didn't want to give the
Yeah,
question.
let's talk about the
I was in
Knicks.
diapers when those guys were in college.
Same.
All right. So, did we have a? I know we had
Yeah.
a recommendation to bet futures for the Knicks if they won. Was there value? I can't remember.
We
Was
we
there
were
value?
betting the Knicks only if Dosunmu played, and he ended up playing. So I think people should have had them. But we got him on a minutes limit, so it wasn't ideal. Like we
Right.
were gonna have the Knicks projected like pick him if he was in, but because they announced he was going to be in but limited to 20 minutes, and sometimes he starts, but he came off the bench. We only had the projected line of Knicks like plus 0.8. Like even him just only playing 20 minutes instead of 30, the Bulls improved by almost a point. It would have been like 1.5 to 2 points if he was out of the game. But weirdly enough, Dosunmu was a plus 11. He had the highest plus minus on the team last night, and the starters just got crushed by the Knicks. So
Got it.
results were
Okay.
weird, but we did have I had a half a unit on the Knicks at plus 2.5. I think people who followed probably had some Knicks bet if they were following close enough to what we said. And then for future betting purposes, huge win. The Knicks I saw as high as minus 140 this morning.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm going out there to check now. I did jump in. It was late last night, and that plus 114 was still available on Bet Rivers.
Oh, very
Yeah.
good. I did get that before I went to sleep too.
Okay. Bet Rivers now has it at minus 121.
Okay.
So again.
All right, so there's a thing that Mike G and I have where it's not that we're superstitious, but it's like we don't like to take victory laps on bets too early. So
Right, this hasn't
last
won yet.
night-
Yeah.
Yeah, so last night the game is like third quarter, the Knicks are up 12, and like I need to properly communicate to your guys that like, hey, the Knicks are in a profitable position, but I'm also just stating facts, right? So it's like this like running joke that we have where it's like, whether I didn't even know if we had a bet on this or not because I was a little unplugged yesterday, but the more that we discuss these live game situations, the more that we need to come up with like a theoretical threshold that like what is the third quarter lead that makes these a bet to you, Matt?
It's a good question because I bet this before the game ended.
Yeah,
First
so
of
it's
all,
like-
stop being
yeah, go ahead.
superstitious. It doesn't matter.
It's just a
stop.
joke. It's an inside joke.
Just
But
never be
we just
superstitious
don't like
again.
victory lapping bets that are winning but not won yet, right? And that's just a gambler thing.
Yeah, well, it's a superstition because I almost lost one of my sons speaking to me again because I texted about a game while it was going on, and then of course immediately things went the other way.
Yeah.
But here's
So
my
I've
thought
been.
on this.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, here's my thought, at least on the futures bet on
Okay.
this one. I kind of all jokes aside, and I'm still relatively new to futures betting, but what I have seen, especially this season, Bet Rivers is not changing things. So I don't
Right.
know that there's no the reason to bet in the third quarter is if you think that plus 115 is going to go away.
Right.
At least with Bet Rivers, that seems to still like I got this at least an hour after the game ended. I was able to get that plus 114, and again. I don't know when they update it. It must be in the morning. Maybe it's 4 a.m. Whatever it is. It's now minus 121. So that's why at least as long as Bet Rivers.
But I wanted to get it on the radar during the third quarter that like, hey, this is breaking away. That like I think
it's
the
a good
bet's
reminder.
opening up.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely a good reminder. I think that as long as Bet Rivers is still going to be slow to take the lines down, I think it makes sense to wait.
Yeah.
And unless there's and also I'm seeing the best numbers there. So that's the site for futures betting that at least for these playoff bets.
And just to remind people, Barstool, Bet Rivers, Sugar House, and Unibet are all the same thing. Those are interchangeable websites.
Yeah, and
looking forward to those in Maryland because I'm going there to visit, and I'm going to probably do some bonus whoring and seeing what they can offer and trying to
always fun
scrape some funds together.
All right. So anything
yeah. Just to close the loop on this point, if you have a site where they aren't going to change it like the ones we've been talking about, just wait till the game's over. But like a division bet at FanDuel,
stay
for
on
instance,
top of that, right? They could change that at any
They could
point, right?
change
So
the way they do things.
That's one of those
Yeah.
things that like I wouldn't rely on that permanently, but as long as they have that inefficiency, let's continue to take advantage of it.
Yeah. But then there were sites like FanDuel where they'll change it as soon as the game ends, or like once it's been decided sufficiently. So you do want to try to time it where you can get it before they move the line. And for those cases, I mean, it's just an arbitrary number. Like, there's no true inflection point here because any team can blow any lead, technically speaking. Like, no game is over until it's literally over. But as soon as the money line on the live line gets above minus 2,000, basically, like, that's 95%. I'm using, like, the statistical significance threshold. Like, anything below 5%, I'm just going to, take the shot. So once the team is over a 95% win probability,
I almost brought up using live lines, and I'm really glad that that's something.
That's what I did.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah. So once one of the teams is above minus 2,000 on the money line,
once the market is settled at 95%, then okay.
Then if it's a case where I'm not just assuming the game is over in all cases for that, but if it's one of those where we think the line may change when the game ends for real, that would. To get minus 2,000, you probably have like an 18-point lead with 8 minutes left, something like that. Like, that's enough for me. I'll make the bet then. So that's what I did for Suns Clippers the other night. Of like, we were gonna say we liked the Phoenix division bet at a certain number if they had enough of a lead. And so yeah, that was like they were up by that threshold. The money line was high enough, like the game was over. If you had done that for Boston Lakers the other night, there was actually it wouldn't have won. The Celtics came back from the Lakers were minus 7,000 on the live line in that game and lost in overtime. So it doesn't always win, but you've got to make a cutoff somewhere because if it's a site where you know that they're going to change the line when the game ends and you've got to be ahead of them.
Gotcha. Right. All right. So good futures talk there.
Yeah.
Anything else from yesterday in the recap or today?
Well, just a thing on superstitions. Like, I've been practicing for not being superstitious for a long time, and like how to get people to be okay with me not doing that. So like my family, they're all diehard Rangers fans, and I would intentionally like change my underwear when we were winning or like switch seats on purpose just to mess with them. And like we're all better now. Everyone is stronger. Everyone can handle that. So we don't have to do any of that nonsense anymore. I highly recommend this for people. Like, try to jinx it so that you realize it's dumb and it doesn't matter.
So you are the superstition. You're the superstition point guard. You make everybody around you better. All good.
100%.
Right, sounds good. All right, let's move to today.
Okay.
I know we had a lot of potential value waiting on news. I am assuming since you didn't give us any hold on news coming in comments that there's nothing that's broke. But that
is correct.
Let's lay things out. Where is the most potential value that you're seeing, given how news may break or how you're expecting it to break? You pick where we're starting.
There's so much potential here. I don't know what the answer is for what I think is the most right now. There's so much that's vague right now. There really is. But
let's start in order of player rating.
Okay, so we're starting with Luka Doncic.
Yes.
We do have one interesting quote from last night. Jason Kidd said that Kemba Walker is going to play a lot tomorrow in reference to today. That's what he said.
Okay.
Yeah. That could mean Spencer Dinwiddie is resting. That could mean Luka is resting. that could mean Walker is just going to be a bigger part of the rotation, and he's been doing well, and they just want him to play more. But
Okay.
just to flag that, like, that is the thing that happened. So
It is a sneaky way that Luka could get a night off, but is there any more to that?
I'm looking at the box score from last night just to see his minutes. He didn't play a ton. There was a blowout in that game. So
Yeah, I think that's
Luka
decent.
and Dame were both potential rest guys for today, but neither of them played full minutes last night. Lillard played 24 and Luka played 29. Although Dallas does have to fly from Dallas to Cleveland for this game, for the one today.
Okay.
So even though he only played 29 minutes, Luka's weird because he didn't rest at all last season. He had 0 rest games. This year, he's already had 2. And they could just be adopting a new philosophy with him. But Kemba only played 13 minutes. I mean, could they
Let's talk
just...
about the offense. All right, so
Okay.
let's pretend we could change Kemba Walker from 13 minutes up to what is his ceiling for minutes? I don't know.
He could play
30?
24. Like, he's not going to play
24,
much
okay.
more than that.
What is the order of likelihood of minutes that they come from?
Yeah, you know what? Now that I'm looking at this, he's not just going to be a bigger part of the rotation. Someone's going to be out. Like, there isn't a player because he's not taking Dinwiddie's minutes. Dinwiddie played well last night. They're not going to play him with Dinwiddie and Luka all at the same time. The defense wouldn't
Yeah, I was
work.
going to say he can't take Hardaway's spot in the rotation.
No, he can't.
right?
And he can't take Bullock's spot. He can't take Finney-Smith's spot. Either Luka or Dinwiddie is going to be out today. I'm pretty sure about that. My hunch, though, is it's Dinwiddie because Luka has been getting the rest games already. It wasn't especially taxing for him last night. Dinwiddie has been filling in when Luka has been sitting. They don't both sit at the same time, or at least that hasn't happened yet in the last... That hasn't happened in the last 2 years. Although, was Dinwiddie even on the Mavericks slot?
Yes.
He was on...
Yeah.
Okay, the Dinwiddie Wizards behind Beal was 2 years ago. Okay, so in these 2 seasons, we have not had a game where both Luka and Dinwiddie sit. And it seems like this would be a weird one for them to do that because they had a 20-point win last night. Like, it wasn't overtime. It wasn't even a close game. So I think most likely scenario is Dinwiddie is out, and that is nothing for us. Like, we don't care. Dinwiddie
Okay.
is a slightly negative player rating.
Maybe
That would be
Luka's
irrelevant.
20% to sit.
Yeah, I think Dinwiddie is like 60 to 70, and Luka could be like 20 to 30, and then maybe there's a 10% chance that... No, I think it's higher for Dinwiddie, really. Like, Dinwiddie might be 70 to 80, and Luka's like 10 to 15, and then there's like a 10 to 15% chance also that no one is out.
Do you think it's 90% that one of the two of those guys?
Yeah, I
sit?
think it's like 80 to 90 that one guy is out, but we don't care at all about Dinwiddie. He doesn't
I
matter.
agree with that.
But then there's a small chance that they're just going to play Kemba more. Just, you know, maybe they will experiment.
Before
with
the
three
news
guards.
comes out, if by some miracle Kemba props are posted
Yeah.
anywhere, by all means, that is probably a red alert nuclear situation, in my opinion.
It depends what they are, but it could be. I think it definitely could be. And if Dinwiddie
I'm going
props,
to go out on a limb and assume they're going to be priced for a 13-minute Kemba Walker, not 24-minute Kemba
I'm going to
Walker.
say,
Obviously,
I think we're not going to get any, but
I think it's very unlikely that we get any. I agree.
Kemba props, like,
Um,
he's too far. But if Dinwiddie props get posted, there's all upside there. Because Dinwiddie props will not lose, at least like PRA combo points.
Oh, okay, I agree with that. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's a great point. So the Dinwiddie props are this quasi free roll that we
Yes.
think because if there's a chance that Lucas sits, they are going to be massively plus EV.
Right.
And if they somehow Luca plays and Kemba, I actually don't know how they're going
Well,
to
if
do that.
Luka plays, it
If-
probably means Dinwiddie's not playing and they're
And
getting
if then when
voided.
he sits, then all your bets push. So
Yeah,
it's
they're
like
just
that's a
voided.
really, really, really interesting point. That's something we definitely need to keep
So-
an eye on.
Fortunately, we had this exact situation last Saturday. We know the timing. And
Okay.
Luka got ruled out at about 150 last Saturday. The Mavericks on a back-to-back are not going to give us this news too early in the morning. The guys may not even be awake yet.
What time was their game last Saturday?
It was later than normal. Remember, they
This
had
is
that
8
late start
PM
with
today.
Milwaukee. So it could be the 1:30 injury report today. It could be a bit earlier.
Okay.
But either way, we're not getting this like now. I would be really surprised if we got this before noon. But the
I agree
props
with
for
that.
the props for the other Mavericks started showing up around noon. So there was like an hour,
Okay.
hour and a half where maybe it was a little bit less, but it was like between noon and 1 at some point, Dinwiddie, Hardaway, Finney-Smith, in addition to Luka, all of their props started showing up. So the Luka ones were available the whole day, and Luka is up there now, but the other guys all showed up, like around noon or 1.
Let's talk about the other side of this game.
Okay, because I do have Donovan Mitchell here too.
Yeah, what's your thinking of Donovan Mitchell's likelihood to play versus sit tonight?
So the Cavs were down early to the Pacers. They were down 7 at half. They were down 11 at the end of the third quarter, and they had a massive fourth quarter to end up winning. And it was a home game, and today is also a home game. But Mitchell has been dealing with, I think it's an ankle issue for like the whole season. He's missed 3 or 4 games here and there for it. He had those 2 games in a row that he missed. One was the Sacramento game. We did like an extensive breakdown during the show about it. But Mitchell basically led the comeback. He had 41 points last night. He made 8 threes. He shot 14 of 24. Very taxing game for him to like produce that comeback. He played 37 minutes. Physically, I don't know, but he played a lot and was a high usage player for the game.
Gotcha. Because if we get a Luka in, Mitchell out, that's going to be huge value.
We have a huge Dallas bet if Luka plays and Mitchell doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
We have the Mavs projected to be favored for the game if that happens, and right now they are +4. I think every side is 4.
Got it.
Yeah.
So,
but it's hard because you can't take Dallas. Well, I think Luka's sitting is unlikely enough that if we got Mitchell ruled out now, I would bet Dallas and then just stay on guard to bet it back the other way if Luka got ruled out. But I think
that's the right way to do it.
Yeah, I think Luka sitting is pretty unlikely, but possible. So if Mitchell were downgraded,
anytime Luka's out, it's just nuclear the other way. The line's about to move by 6 points estimated today, and that's a lot of win percentage moving.
Yes. So okay, so fair line right now we have is Cavs like -2, 2.5. If Mitchell got ruled out, we're going to show it at Dallas -1, and the market will probably move to around pick'em. Because the market is overvaluing the Cavs right now. So it would move to around pick'em. And then if Luka were to get ruled out, it probably moves to Cavs -5, if not more. So you can just bet one way and then end up betting back the other way if necessary. Like I think that's the way to go.
All right. So since you're thinking it's a likely Luka in.
I think it's likely Luka in, and I think Mitchell is like 50-50.
Got it. So if you get the Mitchell news first, if Mitchell is out, are you betting? So you're going to put some money on Dallas and then just hedge back if Luka later is rolled out?
These 2 players are so important that whichever is first, I'm reacting very strongly. And then you just have to react strongly again when we get the other guy.
Right. Okay.
And then if you end up like where you've got 3 units on either side and you're rooting for a middle, so be it. Like that may be the case, and that's fine. Like
if we die.
Well, but also if that happens, like we've got a pretty big middle. Like that's a really good EV situation. Like we could end up with Dallas +4 and Cavs +1 at the same time.
We can also play the money lines here for sure. The same.
You can arbid and get free. Yeah, I would get like if Mitchell got rolled out, I'm betting as much as I can get down as quickly as possible on all Mavericks. Like every iteration of the Mavericks. And then if Luka gets rolled out, I'm doing the exact opposite. And then however the dust settles from there.
The dust settles.
Yeah, that's fine. And then, I may have more, I may be skewed one way or the other, but in both scenarios, those are plus EV bets. Like it's just a lot of plus EV bets.
All right, that was definitely the place to start because there's a lot of potential value depending on how the news breaks. So
those are important pieces on the chessboard.
Yeah. So, any push notifications for accounts we haven't mentioned before? Any specific beat writers?
Yeah,
our accounts?
Should we go to Haralabob's follower list or people that he follows?
I do have the Mavericks beat writer guys, but they are not ahead of the. Okay. Like the Mavs have just been submitting a formal injury report, and Underdog has been the first. Like I haven't seen it pop up from other people. Gotcha. And for Cleveland, I think it's the same thing.
Got it. Okay.
So it's just Underdog. Have Underdog. Definitely have your Underdog NBA notifications on today.
Damian Harris got ruled out if that matters.
He was already questionable.
If that matters to you, Matt. But.
It would matter if he were supposed to play, and then we could just pivot to football. But he would. I don't think he was expected to play anyway. I could be wrong about that. I'm not as in tune with football.
I wanted you to be ready if you needed to be.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's all. All right. I think we've covered this game. So guys, keep an eye on Underdog. Underdog NBA underscore NBA Twitter. to see if you can get news on Doncic or Mitchell.
Big
Also-
shout out to Underdog also. Like they're
Yeah.
going to be the first sponsor of this show. I just want to be the first to say it here. You heard it here first. They
Got it.
have a great Twitter product. They have a great site. I've been a big fan of theirs quite early on, and they're going to be the first sponsor
There
of
we
this
go.
show.
I would
Well,
literally
put
be
that-
dead if they didn't exist.
All right, and we will take a clip of the last 30 seconds when we go big Underdog for a sponsorship. But anyway, moving on. What's the next game we want to talk about for today? What are we keeping an eye on where there could be more potential
Okay.
value than what we're showing right now?
So there's three games where we have an unlikely thing, but if it happens, we have value. So I'll just kind of we'll kind of go through those ones quickly. Giannis is probably not playing today. And if he does play, we have a pretty good Milwaukee bet.
Okay.
Betting against Utah, we have not done that since, I think we've done it once when Conley, Markkanen, and Clarkson all sat against Denver. This is the only time that I can remember this year. But Utah opened +7. The line is down to like 3.5 because Giannis got downgraded to questionable last night. I tried to bet it at +7 when the news came through. I couldn't get it in time. I've got a little at +5.5. I think Giannis probably will sit, and we're going to have the fair line at 3, and it's already like 3.5 or 4. So Giannis getting ruled out doesn't do much for us. I'm just checking props really quickly to see if we have anything there. I mean, I doubt it because he's quite important. Giannis is.
Yeah.
If you see Bobby Portis
Shocking.
props come up, that's a huge potential value. And then Drew also because Middleton is out for this game already. So Portis and Drew, and maybe even Grayson Allen, those would be guys to watch if you see their props. But I think Giannis probably gets ruled out, and we have no bet. But if Giannis plays, which I think is less likely, we're going to have a fair line of Milwaukee -7.5, and the current line is only like 3.5 or 4. So we've got a 1+ unit bet on Milwaukee if Giannis plays.
All right, so if Giannis plays, we're betting Milwaukee. If Giannis doesn't play and you can get some Bobby Portis props, there's the recommendation.
Yep, or
for that
Drew
game.
Holiday. There's a better shot we see Drew Holiday props, but
I thought I
Portis
saw-
would
I
be
thought
the
I-
guy.
I thought I saw Drew Holiday on questionable list for today. Is that incorrect?
He's
Or was he
probable.
questionable?
He-
but
I think
not?
he's
He's
upgraded to
probable. Yeah.
Got it.
He
okay.
could wind up sitting too, but he is probable.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
If,
Let's
okay,
move on.
actually, I'll flag this too. This is even less likely, but if Drew got ruled out in addition to Giannis, Utah at +4, even though the line has moved a lot, would still be a bet. So
Got
if
it.
Drew gets ruled out in addition to Giannis, we can bet Utah. If both play, we can bet Milwaukee. And if it's one or the other, we don't have a bet.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right. What other game do we have? We haven't said it yet. A 14-3 if-then statement. What
No,
else? What
we don't have any of those today.
right.
So
What
we
other game
have.
has potential value?
Okay, let me think. Yeah, we have two. We have two more. So Portland, there's so many questionable players today, but only according to me, because many of these guys are just my questionable players.
Right.
Like Donovan Mitchell,
No,
who
it's
is not on the
good,
injury
good
report.
conversation.
Yeah. So if Lillard gets ruled out, that one's simple. We have a bet on Houston. Lillard's worth like 3.5 to 4 points. We have no value right now, but that is enough to create value, for sure. So if we get a
Okay.
Dame downgrade, if we get anyone else in addition to Dame downgrade, we could get a Josh Hart rest game instead of
Okay.
Dame, and Josh Hart is worth like almost as much. I may add him here. He's a guy who has missed games periodically over the last month or so, and he's been probable for recent games. If there's, I actually think, you know what, I'm just going to do it now so I don't forget. Let's just, in real time, throw Josh Hart's name.
I'm curious to see what the value is for him.
Okay.
No,
He's
that's
got
a pretty solid play rating.
He's got a 1.6, but his backups are bad.
Right.
He was worth more when Lillard was already out because it was kind of compounding. We're going to have him worth about 2, maybe 2.5, but an estimate of 2. There we go. Josh Hart. Okay.
Okay.
So if Josh Hart gets ruled out and he's the only one, Houston +4 is like a half unit bet. I think it's fine. Like we'd have a projected line around 2 or 1.5, something like that. I think
Okay.
probably 1.5. So
Right. But
yeah,
if
we have.
Lillard and Hart somehow are both out, then Houston's a really
Yeah,
strong
we're smashing that one as hard. Like that Lillard plus Hart is as important as that's almost Luka
And
level.
then Simon props and Jeremy Grant props.
Yeah, so that's interesting too because those are not guys. Lillard is not on the injury report, and neither is Josh Hart.
These are sneak attack plays, and these are the props where you can literally unload.
Yep. Right now I'm just seeing Jeremy Grant and no Dame, but
Okay.
Jeremy Grant.
So we already got Grant?
Yeah, Grant would be good. 20.5 points for Jeremy Grant if both those guys are out. I don't think it's crazy value because he's not going to get a minutes bump, which is like number one priority for betting an over on a guy's prop is if he's going to play more.
Sure.
And then second would be usage. You know, I guess there are cases where the usage could go up so much that it's more important.
Yeah, I think Dame has the ball so much that there's just more ball to go around, right?
Yeah, and a lot more. Yeah.
And maybe attack like is do they offer like PA, just points and assists or something?
You can definitely get that. I mean, for Simons, that's where I would look. For sure.
I like that. I like that a lot for Simons.
But I think Grant at 20.5 points is only going to go up to like 22.5 points. Like I don't think it's not a huge value on Jeremy Grant. And I'm not even sure he's plus EV now. So Grant is just like if you have to parlay guys, like there are people who I know this from, you know, we've talked about certain sites and certain fantasy sites where you have to parlay combinations and you need a secondary piece to make it work.
Yes.
Because you have to have a parlay. Grant would be fine for that.
I agree.
Perfectly acceptable. But Simons is the priority if we get his props. Yeah. If you see an Anthony Simons line at like 20.5, 21.5, 22.5 even, and Dame gets ruled out, like that's a really, really good bet. He's going to be up to like 26.5 if Dame's not playing. So if those guys are out, Houston, and if those guys are out, Simons props if they show up. I don't see him yet though.
Got it. And if those guys are in, there's just no bet, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's just boring. And then so one more that's like this would be Bam and Lowry.
Okay.
Who I expect to play. They essentially got a rest game last game. Not essentially, actually. Kyle Lowry was officially rest. Bam was, I think, knee injury, but it was a back-to-back off a close win. Like, these guys are 90% playing, I think, if not higher. Maybe Lowry is 95 and Bam is like 90. So if we got them out, and Bam in particular is the more important one, then we may have a Spurs bet. And then we also...
Hold on. I have a thing.
Yeah. We're going to go to Jimmy Butler,
with the Miami flu. What about the Mexico City flu?
I have no idea.
These young men are going to be interested in going out. So I obviously there's nothing we can do with that, but I wanted to make a joke.
So this is a good time to bring up the worst DFS beat that I've ever had. And
yeah, go for it.
Because just to like jump off of that, because Mexico City can be weird. We don't know. Maybe there's some crazy shenanigans going on.
This game's played internationally. I from studying football games and golf that was played there. I did a little golf DFS one week a couple years back in a tournament that was in Mexico, and I did a relatively deep dive and just like I had time that week, and like there's a lot of differences in the way the atmosphere is, and it's actually like higher than Colorado in some parts of Mexico City. So I'm sure there's some edges to be found. I don't know where they are. Obviously, we're not specialists here, but I think it's an interesting thing to make sure we're aware of.
Well, the thing that happened to me in 2013 was I had a DFS lineup on FanDuel. They had no late swap at the time. Where
did they have to drop the lowest score at this time?
They didn't. No. This is like the first year of FanDuel. I had a lineup where the first 6 of the 9 players that went was like the nut lineup to start the night with. And my last 3 players were Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, and Nikola Pekovic from that game. He was on the Wolves. And it was a Wolves Spurs game in Mexico City. And then there was a fire in the arena and they didn't play.
I don't have a similar. I don't even know where to go from there.
That game got canceled though. Like they just couldn't play it.
I actually think this is an interesting segue, if we don't mind moving to a game that we haven't discussed yet. I have a unique thought on OKC Memphis.
Oh yeah, we
where-
do have to talk about that game pretty extensively. So let's
give
start
me
wherever you
your
want.
OKC thoughts first.
Okay, these two
please.
players I have here are most likely not playing. That's what I think. We've kind of
Okay.
buried the lead here. This is the one where I'm most sure of what the scenario is going to be.
Okay, so why? I just want to hear your
Yeah, the
logic base.
the Thunder are playing their second consecutive home game, so no travel. But Shea played like 38 minutes last night. Really high usage game. They are tanking. Like they don't need to win. I know Memphis is not a team they specifically care to lose to, but why play Shea on a back-to-back after a game where he played that many minutes? Like I don't think he's
How likely is Shea to be traded?
I think pretty unlikely. He's
Okay, I was
he's
curious.
too young and too good, but if they got the right offer, maybe. But I think pretty
Fair.
unlikely. But I think they're unlikely to
I-
play him on a back.
So here's my thoughts on this. You're Memphis. You're traveling to OKC. Reminder, they beat in this game. They won by 75 points or something. I think it was an NBA record or close to it.
Yeah.
Last year. If you're Memphis and you have what I believe is a relatively full squad, and your opponent is OKC, and they sit Shea and Dort, how likely are they to run a full squad out?
You think they could do what they did the other night with Trae Young, and if they find out the Thunder are playing a G League team, they can just sit their guys too?
Their G League team is good, right? I mean, it's not as good
Right.
as
The
last
Grizzlies
year.
will still win this game if Shea and Dort are out,
I-
and also
I-
Memphis has a game. Well, here's the thing. Memphis is
I
playing.
didn't look ahead to their future schedule,
So,
so that's something.
We mentioned it yesterday, which is why I know it, because I just needed to check what the dates are. But the Grizzlies' next 3 games are at Denver, at Phoenix, at Golden State. But they have 2 days off between each game. So they're playing Saturday today. Their game in Denver is on Tuesday. Their game in Phoenix is on Friday after that. And then their Golden State game is Christmas, which is a Sunday. I think
All
I have
I'm
that right.
saying is,
so they've got
I
2
think
days
it's-
and then a day. They have a
I
lot
think
of
it's-
breaks coming up.
I think it's very possible.
Yeah.
That's all.
Well, okay,
That
so
there's just
to that point
surprise.
though, if Shea gets ruled out, I definitely want to bet the under with the added possible benefit of Morant not playing, and then the under is even better.
I want to be ready for Memphis saying,
Right.
Steven
Okay,
Adams or
so-
whoever.
So
older
here's
guys.
the thing that would probably work for that is to focus more on the under and the OKC team total under than we might otherwise do, because if Morant were to sit, both of those are either unaffected or perhaps even positively affected by Morant not playing. Like we don't have to worry about the possible downside of just betting Memphis to cover -8.5, and then they wind up sitting some guys and we're kind of stuck. So
That's kind of what I was afraid
Yeah.
of, because this feels like we could end up with the Memphis ticket that we wouldn't want.
So there's already line movement here indicating Dort's status, which I feel very, very strongly about. Lou Dort left the game early last night with a knee injury, didn't return. He's not going to play tonight. We already have the spread has moved from Memphis -7 to -8.5, probably because of Dort, and then the total has already gone up from 232.5 to like 234. It's moved up by like 2 points already, which also is explained by Dort, who is a defense
I agree
first
with
player.
that.
So we have
that's
Dort
super
priced into the
interesting.
line. Yeah,
So the market's pricing Dort, but not pricing Shea,
Right.
and we have pretty reasonable conviction on Shea. And I'm sliding in this like 5% chance that like Morant and others may come along
Yeah.
as well, right?
I think Dort has like a 5% chance to suit up tonight. It's almost nothing. I think SGA is like 60-40 to sit,
Okay.
maybe 50-50. He's a little better than a coin flip to not play. I'd lean towards him being out, but could go either way. But then if SGA were to sit, that brings in a possible Memphis rest. There's no way Memphis is sitting anyone, though, if SGA plays.
Like I said, 5% is the number I wanted to say
Right.
for that. For the
But it's 5% only if SGA is already out.
Yeah. This is all. Yeah, I agree strongly that if SGA's out, I think the Memphis coaching staff has some conversations. Is all.
Yep. Yeah, fair enough. So if Dort gets ruled out, we actually are showing a bit of value on Memphis in that case, but that's just because we don't like the Thunder and we like the Grizzlies, and the model just thinks this line is not super efficient anyway. So there's no value showing right now, but if Dort were to get ruled out, we have like a fractional edge on Memphis. I would probably do nothing at that point. but we are likely to get Dort with SGA. Like, if SGA is going to be out, we're probably going to get it all at the same time. So if both those guys get ruled out, I think priority would be OKC team total under, then Grizzlies spread, then game total under. But the OKC team total under is by far the priority here because it protects you against Memphis sitting players.
Yeah, I think there is some small fragility on the other side, and I just wanted to be careful there. And I think that's a good way to.
And SGA's impact is all on the offensive end also. So like it makes sense that if he's out, especially because Dort is already accounted for, like the total has already gone up. So we don't have to worry that like Dort and SGA have opposite impacts, like we did with Gobert and Russell, where like one guy's for the over, one guy's for the under. Dort's already accounted for in the line.
All right, so I got an annoying wrinkle for you. That this is something that I think we just forget to talk about. Okay.
Yep.
What happened, and this could also apply to Luka. This could apply to Mitchell. This could can't apply yet. But for all these guys,
wondering,
what if we just get the Q tag first?
Oh yeah, that's
So there's this part where
he's not playing if he's downgraded. Like for a player who's in a potential rest situation, it's a good thing to bring up because people don't really know how to react.
Because I do get a little paralyzed. Like I agree that when we discuss, okay, it's someone 60-40. Well, to us, they're already questionable, right?
Right.
And so when they add the Q tag, does that make it 80-20? Does that make it 90-10? Or like, and obviously case by case basis, right? But on a couple of these guys, Shea, Luka, Lillard, if any of those guys get a Q tag, do you think they're all out?
No, I think every case is different. So for a tanking rest team like the Thunder, questionable, a downgrade to questionable, I'm just treating as out.
I think that's fair.
Yeah. I
do agree. Shea Q tag, I'm treating that as out. I agree with that.
And then Giannis, I think for any of them you lean towards out. If Luka got it's not going to happen for Luka because he's either rest or nothing. But like Mitchell, okay, go ahead.
Let me take this a step further, or let me ask my question a little bit better. Let's say Luka Q tag, where we expect the market to react to now form a middle as opposed to be fully efficient to what we think it is now. Like I guess the question is, how aggressive do you treat what you expect to be a small movement without confirmation? I guess do you get it all there, or do you try to break it up and try to react to the completed?
The answer is I don't know, and it's going to depend on everyone's capability to be around all day. So like we should probably make this its own topic and do its own show. Like we should have at some point. I think we will have separate shows that we do to specifically talk about one betting topic. For this one,
I've got some ideas on that. We can talk.
It's going to be too complicated if we try to do this for each scenario today because we have too many of them. So,
understood.
Just to focus on SGA, if he's downgraded to questionable, I'm 97% sure he's out. For all of the other players who are on teams that care about winning, it's more vague than that. Like they'd be more likely to sit than to play if they got downgraded. And here we go. We got Miami news. Bam and Lowry are going to be in.
Yeah, no.
As expected, those two guys are playing. So
nothing actually.
Nothing there. But for SGA.
Oh, Lowry's out.
What?
Lowry out.
Okay. I mean, we don't have a bet for that because Bam is the more important one. I'm surprised. Lowry rested last game. All right. Well,
I'm just mad that you took a victory lap.
I took it before we even got the second player.
Unbelievable.
We may have a bet with Caleb Martin out. Hold on.
Or can I throw out the thing that we weren't sure if we talked about on the show the other day?
Okay.
With Lowry out, or what are we feeling about Butler assists?
No props yet for him.
Okay. If Butler assists pop up,
I would take an over 5.5 for sure, and I would take an over 6.5 if it's like plus 120 or higher.
Yep.
But it's not as good as the other one because Bam matters.
Right. No, that was a great situation the other night when Bam and Lowry were both out for Butler.
Are we gonna get 16 updates?
Yeah. We are. I don't actually know if the line's even going to move for this game because Bam. It looks like the market is treating Bam as an upgrade right now. Like it was 7.5, and it looks like it's still 7.5.
Now, Amanda said his background spent.
Do we have something playing from one of our computers? Or is that one of your background noises? Oh, one of you went on mute. Okay. It just got loud for a second. Oh, that's coming from Mike. Okay. So we're ignoring this for now, but the Spurs may be a bet with who are we? Oh, Caleb Martin. Lowry and Martin. Yeah. I think we're going to have the projected line for that game at like 6, maybe 5.5. So we'll see where the line settles. It could be a bet depending where it goes. But I think at 7.5, fractional bet, half unit bet on the Spurs. Yeah, because Jakob Poeltl is playing. All right, that's pretty good timing. Underdog has now confirmed Jakob Poeltl is playing.
Okay.
I can victory lap that one.
All right. So are you making a half unit bet on Spurs right now?
The lines are off the board right now, so I'm waiting to see if they come back up. At plus 7.5, yeah, half unit. I think that's fine. But I don't know if it's going to be there because everything went off the board and I'm waiting for them to return. So the one that we were talking about, though, if SGA gets ruled out, my priority is OKC team total under 112.5. Just to, like, summarize that whole thing.
Okay.
Because it protects us if, Lockie's scenario of Morant also ends up getting ruled out, which is unlikely, but I think it's a relevant variable. But anyway, like, if SGA is out, the thing most directly affected is the team total because his defense is whatever. Like, he doesn't matter on defense. It's all offense. So just going for the team total under, I think, is the way to go. So if he's ruled out, under 112.5 for OKC. I think that's all the scenarios with the exception of the Clippers-Wizards game. We should at least mention that one. Okay. Paul George is questionable again. We are showing a bit of value on the Clippers, but it's not as simple as just that because Bradley Beal is also on the injury report. So if George is ruled out and Beal is also ruled out, we're showing some Wizards value, not a ton. If George plays and Beal is ruled out, we have Clippers value. So it's just like I think you react to George either way. You can't really react to Beal because George is too important. So if George is confirmed in, I'll probably bet some on the Clippers. And if George is out, I'll bet some on the Wizards. Like, we're set at a midpoint, but George is so important. I think you can go either way depending how that
happens. The midpoint is gonna create a value on each side because he moves so much. He has so much gravity. I agree with that.
It's like the same as Giannis. Like, Giannis is a way better player than Paul George. Although, do the ratings have George better? Should I not be saying that?
I'm not willing to trust the ratings on Giannis being below Paul George, no matter what it says.
Paul George is really good, and Giannis's rating has dropped recently for some reason. I don't know how many more tangents we can do, but Giannis's rating is lower than it's been. I'm going to.
He's been eating too many Skittles at the scorers table.
I mean, these are 2 of the top 7 player ratings in the NBA still. I mean, I would have if I didn't have any numbers in front of me, I would have said Giannis has the number 3 player rating in the NBA, behind Luka and then behind Jokic, of course. But it looks like he has dropped to number 6, behind Embiid, Paul George, and Curry. Okay. Anyway, on top of whatever we think about the player ratings, Milwaukee has way better guys to fill in for Giannis than the Clippers do for George. Like Pat Connaughton and Grayson Allen and George Hill and Javon Carter, all like average players. The Clippers backups like Amir Coffey and Terrence Mann. Amir Coffey's bad. And then, like they don't have Norman Powell's already out. Reggie Jackson could be out. They have some pretty bad players behind them. So George has worse backups. His estimated impact is higher than the one Giannis has. So if George is in, we probably want to bet the Clippers, but then maybe we end up hedging it back if Beal plays. It kind of depends how the line moves here. I guess the last thing to say here is like I'm gonna tweet some stuff because
I was gonna say this sounds like
there's a test right now.
Yeah, this is a great day to set your notifications on the Preaching Sense Twitter account. Matt will try to keep us updated and all of these if-then scenarios. As news comes in, he'll let us know. We've got a bunch of things where there is potential value based on how that news breaks. So
the other thing, just to cut you off quickly, the Clippers-Wizards game is at 4 p.m. Eastern.
Okay.
It's soon. So like we may get some stuff.
Gotcha.
So stand by. Yes. Okay, go on.
No, that was it. I just
Okay.
was going to reinforce for everybody. Preaching Sense Twitter account, you'll get updates there. So keep an eye. There's potential value really across the board here based on how news breaks. So there could be some on team totals.
Have a fun Saturday. Sit at your computer all day, nerds.
I mean,
Right.
by like 3 p.m., I think we'll have gotten everything.
No, I agree. The 1:30 injury report is a probable
Yeah.
thing where something interesting is going to happen. We just don't know where. So I would stay ready. If you're able to today, I will not be able to, unfortunately, but I'll try my best.
One
right.
more update. The Spurs line has actually gone up to 8.5, so I'm definitely saying that's a bet right now.
Great. Okay. So Spurs full unit at,
Yeah.
at plus 8.5?
Yeah,
Yep. Okay. All right. So we do.
that's what I'm
we
doing
stayed
right
on
here on my
long
phone.
We stayed on long enough to find immediate value. There is immediate value on the Spurs. So I know I am going to rush to get that bet in. And anything else for today other than keep an eye on Preaching Sense Twitter account for news and updates?
No, let's let everyone get out of here so we can all make our bets and keep an eye
All
on
right.
the Twitter account.
Are we on tomorrow or are we having a day
Let's
of
skip
rest?
tomorrow and come back Monday.
Sounds good.
Sunday's our day of rest, even though Saturday is our day of rest, as the title of the show says for all the resting players.
Gotcha. All right, guys. Santa Claus, talk to you later.